Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. Thank you so much for joining this week on another podcast episode. I am super excited about this one, and I feel like this one has been a long time coming. I have two members from Viome joining me, and we discuss everything gut health, microbiome, mRNA, all of the good things. And so we really get into the different tests that they offer and how it can actually be really useful to kind of figure out what's going on with your health. So I first tested with Viome, I think in 2019 maybe, and I just tested it again this summer, and I'm testing again, sometime this month. And so it's really interesting when you do it multiple times to be able to look at your results. And they provide a ton of information. They list all of the different bacteria, probiotics, viruses that are found in your gut. And they also have a oral microbiome test and a blood cellular test. So they're really expanding what they're doing, which I find really cool. And they're coming out with some really, really cool products as well. So if you know of Viome, you probably know that they, have these tests that they send to people, and then they recommend certain supplements, and you can kind of get on their subscription supplement packs that are formulated specifically for you, and they get sent to you every month. But they are also coming out with new products specifically designed for the oral microbiome. So they're looking into things like toothpaste that have probiotics in them and things like that. And we get into that on this episode. So lots of good things coming from them. A quick shout out to my holiday Christmas campaign that's coming at the beginning of December. So if you are on my newsletter list, you would have received a sneak peek into this past week. If you're not on that list, I suggest you get on it, because the people on there are the first to know about everything. And you can do that right on my website, biohackingbrittany.com. But yeah, so I'm doing 12 days of biohacking gifts from December 1st to December 12th. And every day is going to feature a different gift that you can give a loved one to really support them on their health journey. So there's going to be giveaways. There's going to be lots of content around it. There'll be a podcast episode for every gift, kind of going through how the product works or the service works, and interviewing someone from the team of the company. So lots of information, lots of content. And most importantly for you, there will be a giveaway. And I love holiday giveaways. I think they're just so fun. And especially it's nice to win and be able to gift it to somebody else. And that's kind of the whole point, is how can we really support like our moms and dads and brothers and sisters and partners and friends to really become healthier and try biohacking and really just start the new year off on the right foot. So that is coming December 1st. Stay tuned. All of the giveaways will be hosted on my Instagram profile. That will be the only place that you can enter. So even though you might hear a podcast about it, there's going to be a newsletter, a blog post, all of these different things. The only place to enter will be on Instagram. And yeah, so stay tuned. And Viome is actually one of the brands that will be a part of that. So I will be giving away their full body intelligence test, which is what we talk about today. So you'll be able to enter to win one of those. I mean, I think it retails for maybe $3.99. I don't even know. I'd have to check. But yeah, so that's coming. So I'm super excited about that. And a quick shout out to the sponsors of this week, Biotics. They just sent me a new cream and gel, which is much needed as I heal my skin. Man, the day that I stop talking about the skin on the back of my legs on this podcast will be a glorious day. Silver is, when you use the mineral topically like that, it really helps to kill off any bad bacteria and parasites. And so a lot of people use it for various things like rashes, eczema, even things like ear infections with kids. Even if you get like a cut and like putting it on top of that instead of using harsher things that can cause further issues. So it's one of those like natural things that works in your favor, but doesn't necessarily impact the flora or the microbiome and all the healthy bacteria and things that are happening on the surface. They also do have a supplement as well. So you can drink a bit of silver every single day. And what's what I like about them is that it's nanoparticles of silver, which means that it actually doesn't accumulate in the body. So other brands that sell silver, you have to be really careful because it can accumulate in the body and then there's issues with that. So there's like with Silver Biotics, their silver is too small, like the nanoparticles are too little for that to happen. So that's why you can take a little bit every day. You use it and then you flush out what you don't use, which is great. So I love Silver Biotics, and they are linked everywhere on my website and in the show notes. And a shout out to Biooptimizers. They are doing a Black Friday promotion. And I think a lot of people are, but I think this is their biggest promotion of the year. So they are doing 25% off all products, which is pretty good. Like if you think about it. So their entire website, 25% off. And that is running from, let me pull this up so you guys know. That is running from November 21st to 29th. So if you're thinking, I need new magnesium, I need new probiotics, I need new digestive enzymes, those are the main products that I use from them. I would wait until November 21st to 29th, and I would buy during this 25% off time. To get that, you have to use my discount code, which is Biohacking Brittany in all capitals, and go to my link, which I will link in my show notes as well. And on my website as well, which is biooptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany. And you can do that. They also have a parasite cleanse, which is really great as well. You take like one cap a night for like 3 nights a week maximum. And that has got a ton of herbs in it and different enzymes as well that can really help get rid of parasites in the body and support you. And last but not least, a shout out to Analema. This is a really cool device. I just talked about this on the podcast last week, where we talked about structured and coherent water. So through this crystal tube, you're actually able to change the molecular structure of water, which means it's more bioavailable for you when you are drinking it. There's more benefits and your body just absorbs it better and responds better to it. So this is really cool. It's like, if you go to their website, it's really beautiful actually. And you stir it in your water. I know I just heard Dave Asprey have them on his podcast too. So they are definitely making way in the biohacking space. I love this. I think if we can make our water more, absorbable and healthier for us, we might as well, because I drink so much water every single day. So you might as well make it as healthy as possible and make it coherent water in that way. So thank you to them and enjoy this episode with Viome, and stay tuned next week for another one. Welcome to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. I am so excited about this one. I feel like this is one of those episodes that I have wanted to do for so long because it's with Team Viome, and I have been testing with Viome probably for like a couple years at least at this point. But I haven't had anybody from their team on the podcast yet. I haven't been able to discuss my results or even how Viome works or what Viome even is for those who don't know. So we're going to get into all of that information today, all of the goodies, all of the golden nuggets that you want to know about gut health and oral health and things like that. So Hillary and Grant, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah. So for those people who have no idea what Viome is and they're kind of new maybe to health and wellness or biohacking, how would you initially describe the company?
So the company is tackling this giant dilemma that we have as humanity, right? We all are going to get sick and die at some point, right? And so what we put into our bodies really matters is what we're finding. And so the mission is to make illness optional by providing you with the foods that you need, the foods that are going to work best for your biology, and the supplementation that will help you get there.
Right. And so you do that through testing for specific things, specific biomarkers.
Exactly. Yeah, we use metatranscriptomic technology. That means we're measuring RNA. All other companies out there, they're measuring DNA. And what we find is the RNA really gives you a better picture of your health. We know that your DNA isn't going to change throughout your life, whether you're 5 years old, you're 80 years old, you're skinny, you're fat, your DNA is going to be the same, right? So would you eat the same diet if you were 100 pounds versus 300 pounds? No, probably not. So what Viome is setting out to do is getting a better picture of your health by looking at what biological processes are actually happening. How is your DNA actually being expressed? What's happening in your body?
Right. So how did you get from that understanding and that initiative to then like testing your gut health and testing and going through like the gut to figure that out? What was the process in that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So we started as a microbiome company, a gut microbiome company, and we had this amazing tool, like Hillary just mentioned. We can use this transcriptomics, look at the RNA, and for the first time, try to understand the activity of the microbiome and how it's influencing our own human health, right? We've been able to look at the microbiome for a while. We know there's strong associations and relationships with our immunity, with our mental health, our cardiovascular health, our digestive health, obviously. But it's like, how can we leverage the microbiome to improve our health in these areas? It's been really difficult because, like Hillary mentioned, we've only been able to test DNA up until now. And DNA can tell you what microbes are there. And again, there's associations, but you don't really know what they're doing. And what they're doing really matters because it's not like there's necessarily all good guys and all bad guys. There's these bacteria that are normal commensals, but depending on their activity, they can actually turn into a bad guy, or a bad guy can actually turn into a good guy and be beneficial, be good for your gut lining, for butyrate production, for controlling your cholesterol, whatever that might be. So for the first time, we've been able to leverage the microbiome, which is important because we think about our genes as our destiny, but that's not true. It's really our epigenetics, our environment, all the influences in our life that turn our genes on and off. The microbiome has a key role in determining those epigenetics. Nutrition plays a key role in those epigenetics. So now we can actually measure that gene expression in real time to manipulate your nutrition and your lifestyle to better benefit your health through the microbiome. Pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it is really cool. I find that really fascinating. There's a couple things that you said that I don't actually hear very often. The first being that bacteria, like the microbiome, specific bacteria, can go from good to bad or bad to good. And that narrative is not mainstream at all right now because it's very like, take probiotics because probiotics are healthy bacteria. You know what I mean? Like there's a very like split divide there. And it's a very different way of thinking of like, no, these bad guys actually can be good if you give them the right tools. And here's how to do that. And I love that. And I think that's going to really change the game once people start to understand that.
Yeah. And it's, again, we've been limited by our tools, but now that we're getting better and better at understanding what activity is actually occurring, then yeah, we can say, I think a perfect like poster child example of this is C. difficile. So C. difficile is a Clostridium bacterium. It's in almost everyone's gut, right? It's a commensal. But when there's an imbalance in the microbiome, say you do a round of antibiotics for, your pneumonia, whatever, your UTI, that C. diff, now that there's a microbial imbalance, there's an opportunity that C. diff can spread and take advantage of that situation. And now when it spreads, the activity actually changes and it goes from being a normal butyrate producing commensal bacterium to being actually pathogenic. And it can cause life-threatening diarrhea, right? Where you can dehydrate, electrolyte imbalances. It can land you in the ER in the hospital very quickly. And then you've got to do even more antibiotics. And a lot of the C. diff is, antibiotic resistant. So it can be very hard to shake. But again, this is a normal commensal microbe that's doing beneficial things until there's some disruption in the microbial community there. Another example, you mentioned probiotics. We're finding now that we've moved into the oral microbiome and we're actually measuring oral microbiome activity through the saliva, a lot of these good guys that we think of in the gut, lactobacilli, are actually bad guys in the oral microbiome, in the oral cavity. You think about cavities and acid pH balance. Lactobacillus actually contribute to a lower pH and increased acidity, which in the gut, is a net positive, but in the oral cavity is actually a net negative. It's interesting stories, the way it's playing out as you can measure that activity.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. Obviously we're hearing a lot about epigenetics and like you said, like turning genes on and off and controlling the environment and doing that through lifestyle, biohacking, supplements, nutrition. But when you add in the microbiome, it's like this other step in saying, how can we support the microbiome that is going to support our epigenetics, which makes it more complicated, but actually makes it really fascinating, at least for people like me, which really likes to think these types of things through. And yeah, it just makes me like second guess some of the decisions I make. And I hope it does for other people too. And I guess that's the point of testing with Viome in general, is like, it assesses how you've been living and if that is supporting your microbiome, which is then either supporting your genetics or not supporting them.
Absolutely. What we're finding is there's a lot of foods that are generally regarded as healthy foods, like, for example, spinach. I noticed in your results that you have suboptimal oxalate metabolism pathways. Well, that means spinach is not going to be good for you. Spinach is high in oxalates. And it means that your microbiome is not converting the oxalates so they can turn into something really harmful that can cause gout or other harmful health conditions.
Yeah, that's when I just did this test. I think it was maybe in the summer. That was one of the biggest things that I started changing, because I'm retesting in a couple weeks. And so I wanted to take out spinach and almonds, because almonds are high in oxalates as well. And I have almonds in everything. And it's actually very difficult because I try and eat pretty like paleo and everything. And almond is like a replacement for everything, like almond milk, almond flour. And so to take out oxalates and eat paleo at the same time is pretty limiting.
I always wonder how almond got to be so popular. It's really not that good a nut. I mean, it's crunchy, I guess, but in terms of like omega-3s and all the good things you want to get from your nuts, it's not really a superstar. Pecans, walnuts, macadamia nuts, those are going to be those that are highest in omega-3s. Kind of funny.
Yeah, no, totally. I've started using macadamia nut milk and macadamia nuts, and then also like walnuts and pecans, like you said, but it's hard. And I can imagine for the average person getting these results back, like, where do you even recommend they start? Because the Viome results, regardless of the test that you do, gives so much information and so much data. And I think it would be overwhelming for the average person to try and kind of like make sense of it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think each customer gets over 40 million data points that we're analyzing, right? So then it's a lot for us to hand over to a user, and we distill it down as much as we can, but we still want to provide a lot of insights. And so it can be a lot, but what we suggest is looking at your high level health scores. There's about 6 of them. So start looking at those, see what areas you need improvement and where you're doing really well. And then from there, what we suggest is moving on to your superfoods. So it can be a lot to completely change your diet in one shot. And that works well for some people, but for most people, just easing into it really works well. So start with your superfoods, start making sure that those superfoods are on your grocery list and that you're ingesting them every day. And then from there, you can start to work on your avoid foods. Those are what most people complain about. It's difficult to give up some of your favorite foods, like for you, it's almonds. But it's important to realize that your microbiome changes. So when you change your diet, your microbiome will respond. And then we recommend that you test 4 to 6 months later. And then you can see how your microbiome is responding. And if your oxalate metabolism improves, then you can start to bring almonds back in. So it's only temporary.
Did you know that before the invention of germicides and antibiotics, it was known that disease-causing germs could not survive in the presence of silver? Thus, silver was used in dishware, drinking containers, and eating utensils. Whether it's a weak immune system, dry skin, eczema, sun damage, bad breath, or unhealthy gums, we are all looking for ways to optimize our health and reduce the symptoms we're dealing with on a daily basis. But honestly, it's tough to know what remedy to try, what food may be causing the issue, or what will actually work when we're trying to heal. Of course, there are somewhat effective solutions we can get from our local pharmacy, but as people who prefer using the power of nature to heal, using these products don't really align with our values. Keeping our bodies strong is essential to our good health. A strong immune system can protect our body from infection and helps us heal. Silver has been used for centuries to do exactly this. Silverbiotics have taken the old technology of colloidal silver and improved it to create the next generation of silver products. Silverbiotics has products for skincare for issues like dry skin and eczema, and I'm currently using their skin gel on the back of my legs as I try to heal the dry skin that I'm dealing with. They have oral health products as well, including a fantastic toothpaste that helps fight bad bacteria with its silver content. It also decreases bad breath, whitens teeth, and supports healthy gums. They have an immune support supplement that can be taken orally, which also helps support our immune system from the inside out. If you are interested in trying silver and you've heard about this and it's kind of been one of those things that you've always wanted to do and try, I really, really recommend Silver Biotics, and they are my go-to silver company. You can head over to silverbiotics.com or the shop on my website and use my code BiohackingBrittany in all capitals to get a discount, which gets you 10% off today. Again, I really recommend trying this if it's for you, if it's for your pet, if it's for a loved one. Silver is definitely a staple in my little pharmacy I have at home. So that's silverbiotics.com or the shop on my website, discount code BiohackingBrittany for 10% off today. Yeah, I love that. And it's like that with a lot of tests you do actually. It's more just indicative of you over consuming that one food or that one ingredient. And like you said, it's almost like an elimination diet. Like you take it out for a while and then you kind of bring it back, but you bring it back in moderation. And I think that's a very fair approach. As much as we love to be like dogmatic about things and just say like, I'm never going to eat almonds ever again because of this. Like, it's just not your reality. You know, it's not reality for most people. So
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to get away from, is that dogma, like food as a religion, that, hey, this healthy food is healthy for everybody. This diet type is healthy for everyone. This is what you should do for weight loss. No, we think it's very individual because our microbiomes are very individual, right? We all have this internal molecular organ that is unique to each and every one of us, right? And that's that microbiome that we grow and learn with, our immune system develops with, our neurological system, our neurotransmitter production. All these things are intimately tied to our microbiomes. And so when you hear a lot of times, like people talk about dysbiosis, and it's kind of gets thrown around a lot, this idea that, some disruption to the microbiome. Really, dysbiosis is this idea that there's a disruption to your microbiome, right? That, Brittany's normal ecology has been thrown off, for whatever reason. Maybe that was an infection, maybe that was some antibiotics, maybe whatever, maybe did some traveling. Your microbiome has been disrupted. How can we get it back to your baseline that's going to be the best for you and your health? And that's really the advantage, I think, of our testing versus others.
Yeah.
Activity and get you back to feeling great.
Yeah. Honestly, I wish I had like this testing, how long ago? 10 years ago, 12 years ago? Because when I first started getting into the health field when I was a teenager, I was having a bunch of symptoms and I didn't know what was going on. And through a very roundabout way, it took forever, like through a naturopath and different practitioners, like I figured out that I was having gut health issues and leaky gut. And at that time, it was like this weird thing that no one knew about. Like gut health wasn't trending on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like it was a very different time. And it took me a long time to like figure that out and then figure out how to heal my gut. But now with Viome, like you can just do this test and you guys have a score for leaky gut. Like you give information on things like that. And then you say, okay, like this is exactly what you need to do to heal this specific thing.
Yeah, I love that you said that we didn't know too much about the microbiome that long ago. And now we're starting to look at the oral microbiome. And what we're finding is the oral microbiome is a lot like the gut microbiome was then. And we're seeing that the oral microbiome is really the gateway to your total body health. We've found that research is showing that there's periodontal pathogens that are involved in a variety of different diseases, from cardiovascular disease, rheumatoid arthritis, Alzheimer's. So part of our mission is we need to go after that oral microbiome too and make sure we're getting your oral microbiome into a good state, because just like leaky gut, you can have leaky gums. And those pathogens in the oral cavity can get into your blood either through the leaky gums or just by your swallowing.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And add to that, yeah, they're finding the same microbes that are in the mouth. They're finding amyloid plaques in the brain of Alzheimer's patients. They're finding in cardiovascular plaques. You think about heart disease. They're finding the oral bacterium in those plaques. Thinking about the trigger for inflammation and that plaque development, those immune cells, those foam cells, and everything kind of cardiovascular. It's really crazy, all the associations. But that's what Biome's trying to do. It's like, okay, we're not on this planet by ourselves. We have other humans and other organisms and a ton of microorganisms. We evolved with these microorganisms. There needs to be some balance between our microbiomes, right? Not just our gut, but our oral, our nasal, our vaginal, our skin. And until now, we haven't been able to harness and use this information in a meaningful way. And, we're just getting started, but already we're seeing huge benefits with our customers. And we've got clinical studies that show improvements for irritable bowel syndrome, mental health, blood sugar control, all just to point that, hey, we're on the right path. And the simple recommendations that we give. We mentioned the almonds. Hey, stop taking the almonds, replace it with some macadamia. Stop the spinach, replace it with some other leafy green that's not as high in oxalates. Simple steps to impact your microbiomes and your health. Even with the oral microbiome and bringing in things, postbiotics and prebiotic fibers and polyphenols that are just important in the gut, also important in impacting the activity of the microbes that are in the oral cavity, right? To either decrease the cavity production, I guess I'll say, or volatile sulfide production that's going to contribute to bad breath, or mucin degradation that's going to contribute to those leaky gums we're talking about. We have the tools we need to influence the microbiomes, but we first have to be able to measure, test, identify, hey, what dysfunction is there? And then we use nutrition as a tool to rebalance, upregulate or downregulate that activity and bring you back to balance.
Yeah, I really like that. So why did you make the shift to oral microbiome in the first place? Like, there's so many different microbiomes on the body. So I'm just curious, like, what was the motivating factor that was like, okay, this is the next step for our company?
Well, we have this really great technology, and we've learned a lot about the gut microbiome from it. And then we're starting to just watch the research and see that the oral microbiome is tied to so many other health conditions, right? So we started looking into it. We've been researching it for quite a few years, even before we launched our full body intelligence test this summer, which includes the saliva test. So we've had our eye on it. And, now we have the kit ready. We have solutions coming down the road, which is really exciting. For any kit that we offer, we always make sure that there's a solution for it. So with your oral microbiome, you'll have foods tailored to your oral microbiome. And coming up soon, you'll have oral healthcare solutions. So we're talking probiotics made for your oral microbiome. And we're talking tooth gels or toothpaste to help remove plaque.
Just made intuitive sense too, right? Here we are, we start with the gut microbiome. We start at the bottom of the tube, and it was just a natural progression to go to the top of the tube. It's a natural extension, right? And we know the oral microbiome has impacts on the gut microbiome. And then we also see all these other associations with full body health. So it was a natural progression. And then certainly when we're looking at things like inflammatory bowel disease and cancers in the gut, we started to look at cancers in the upper GI. And actually, we recently released our first ever cancer detect test through saliva. We can, with a high probability or accuracy, tell you whether or not you have early stage oral throat cancers. We got FDA breakthrough device approval. We're pretty proud of that fact that we were able to bring our product to market so quickly, because up till now, there's been no other, like the standard of care for detecting oral and throat cancers is basically your dentist looks in your mouth and feels around and uses a black light to say, hey, do I see any lesions? But by that time, it could be advanced stage cancers that are very difficult to deal with. But we're looking at microbial and gene expression activity to detect early stage cancers before maybe it's even visible or palpable, right, as a dentist is running their finger through. So really, really excited that we're being able to impact health, because Hillary mentioned at the beginning, we have kind of a lofty mission, right? Let's make illness optional. And it's all about early detection, prevention, and correcting any dysfunction that we're able to identify. And we try to do that through nutrition, but we're also working on therapeutics. We have kind of two divisions, right? You'll see our consumer division, our life sciences division. consumer division, you're going to see the at-home testing, the supplementation, the pre and probiotics, the oral healthcare products Hillary just mentioned. And then on the other side, we're looking at, hey, how can we use all this data, all this RNA that we're measuring, and how can we create diagnostics and therapeutics to really move the needle in the goal of preventing chronic disease?
The quality of water that we drink really, really matters, whether it's mineral water or structured, coherent water or spring water, whatever it is, it actually makes a difference. And this is because 99% of our molecules are made of water. It makes such a big influence on our life and everything that we do. Right now, I am using a device called Analemma, which I actually just talked about on my podcast on episode 120, if you want to go back and listen to that one with Mario. And basically, it is a revolutionary new device that radically changes the state of drinking water. It powerfully enhances the properties of water by rearranging the H2O molecules into a liquid crystalline structure. That structure and its stability has a remarkable influence on all living things. So basically, it's this device that is made out of this crystal tube, and you place it into your water and you stir it for about 15 seconds or so, and it changes the structure of water on the molecular level. That means that the water that you drink after that is way more absorbable in the body and way more helpful and healthy for you. So this is something that Analemma has been working on for a long time, and is a clear quartz crystal tube filled with special mother water that transforms regular water into a supercharged full spectrum coherent state, which is really cool. So if you're interested in benefits like reducing your biological age, balancing your brain waves, increasing your vitality, regular consumption of Analemma coherent water really helps with this. So this is my favorite tool right now. I'm using it in literally every single liquid I drink. It takes 15 seconds or less. You just stir it, change the structure of the water, and then you're done. And they are also actually coming out with a full home device soon, which will do all of the water in your house, which is really cool. So if you're really interested in this, like I am, please use my discount code. It's Biohacking Brittany in all capitals, and they will be linked in the show notes and on my website as well if you're interested. That is Analemma, and my discount code is Biohacking Brittany in all capitals. Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you. I think it's a lofty mission and a lofty goal, but it's needed though, right? Like so many people are sick and so many people have chronic illness, and a lot of people just don't have solutions in general, right? And I've been there as well, of like having a symptom and ignoring it for so long until it gets bad enough that you actually have to do something about it. And I think that's so common with people. So on the topic of oral microbiome, what are the typical symptoms that somebody would have if their oral microbiome was like compromised or wasn't that great?
The most common symptom is bleeding gums. So that signifies there's some inflammation, and that likely means that you have these periodontal pathogens burrowing in your gums. So they produce hydrogen peroxide, which is radical oxygen species, and that starts to degrade away the gum tissue, and it can also degrade away the teeth. So it's causing a lot of inflammation, a lot of oxidative stress, not to mention your body's response to those microbes is, guess what? Produce hydrogen peroxide. So there's this oxidative war almost going on in the gums. And the first sign of that is bleeding gums. So if every time you floss your teeth, you notice some bleeding, or even when you brush or spontaneous, that is a sign of dysbiotic oral cavity.
Yeah, that's really good to know. And do you recommend people floss every day? Like I know you're just getting into like toothpaste and that type of thing, but is that kind of what you recommend, or twice a day, or where are you guys on that?
Absolutely. Flossing is still very effective at removing the plaque, removing those microbes from in between the teeth. So that in conjunction with your oral probiotics, your personalized toothpaste would be the best standard of care that we can offer.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds fantastic. Like I would love to see more of this type of thing come onto the market in terms of bacteria, healthy bacteria in toothpaste. And I think it will. I think in general, microbiome and this idea of bacteria in us, on us, is becoming very popular. And I'm starting to actually see it in skincare as well. So is that something that you're going to look to in the future in terms of creating tests for other microbiomes on the body?
We will leave no microbiome unturned.
Yeah.
It's all in the big plan.
Yeah, stay tuned.
We would like to decode the entire body and provide solutions for any microbiome.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already seen benefits to the skin through the gut microbiome, things like psoriasis, eczema, rosacea. We expect to see even more with the skin microbiomes. And yeah, that's definitely one of our next big targets moving forward.
I think that's awesome, especially because the skin is external, right? And a lot of people, when they have skin issues, are actually very insecure because a lot of other people can see them. So it kind of hits different compared to a gut microbiome. And like, yeah, you might have digestive issues, but it might not externally show as much. Same with oral microbiome, but the skin, I think, would be massive and very successful. Yeah, I just think it's going to be fascinating when you guys move into that direction.
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned the oral. Yeah, that healthy smile, that fresh, clean breath also has social impacts, right? As you're going out. I do want to say it though, with the oral microbiome, it's interesting because the conventional approach has always been antimicrobial, right? Like Listerine, antimicrobial mouthwashes, kill all the critters, right? You really see this is equivalent to taking antibiotics, right? Like you wouldn't take antibiotics every day for your gut. Instead, right, you want to leverage the power of the microbes and strike a balance when I talk about commensals, right? Commensals are these bacteria that live with us every day, and they provide a level of protection against activity that would lead to the gingivitis, to the caries production, the cavities, to the bad breath, the halitosis. So instead of just blatantly killing everything off with high-powered antibiotic mouthwashes or rinses, is there a better way? And I think we're showing, and the science certainly is showing, there is a better way, that instead of going with a conventional, like hygienic approach, it's how can we leverage this activity to promote overall better oral health and systemic health. So it's a slight twist, right? But again, we didn't have the tools to measure this activity before, and we're happy to bring that to the everyday consumer now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you said that. My fiance, whenever he has bought Listerine or mouthwash in the past, when he's not home, I take it and I dump it in the sink because and he gets mad, and I'm like, listen, like we can go out and buy some sort of holistic, healthy one. I'm going to read the ingredients. It's fine. But like, there's no way that you are using this garbage. And I think with like talking to you two, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. But the average American, the average Canadian hearing that would be like, you're crazy. Like there's nothing wrong with it. Like you don't have to be that healthy. Like this is to the extreme. But when you actually look at the data and the science, or you get your oral microbiome tested and then you see the results, it's right there. You know what I mean? Like the proof is in the pudding. It's just a lot of people, I guess, just don't do that. Yeah. You know,
it really takes a change in perspective. And, for the last few decades, like look at just in medicine in general, the over prescribing of antibiotics and where that's gotten us. We've learned a lot, kind of the same thing with opioids, but with antibiotics, we've learned a lot. And it's a little bit of a paradigm shift for the average consumer. But again, when you look at that science, that it makes total sense that we want to live in harmony with these microbes, right? In balance. And instead of just blatantly wiping everything out. And the interesting thing is, like, when you use those antimicrobial mouthwashes, your blood pressure goes up, right? They kill off the beneficial bacteria that help us metabolize the nitrates in our diet. And those nitrates, they enter the circulation through the buccal surfaces, the cheek surfaces, they're in the mouth, and they really have a strong influence on our ability to have our blood vessels relax and control our blood pressure. So the first thing you see when you use those is folks, their blood pressure goes up. That's not intuitive. Like who's thinking about their heart health when they're using their mouthwash? They're not. So yeah, that's our job to really get out there and educate and empower folks to say, hey, these relationships are out there. We can now measure them. And hey, by the way, here's what you need to do to influence them and make them work in your favor.
Would you like to dramatically improve the quality of your sleep? Would you like to bulletproof your stress? Please listen to the end, because there is a Black Friday special offer happening, and this could be exactly what you need. I've got a few more questions for you. Are you irritable, anxious? Do you struggle with insomnia, experience cramps or twitches? Are you constipated sometimes? There are dozens of symptoms of magnesium deficiency, so these are just a few of the common ones that I've seen. 4 out of 5 Americans are magnesium deficient, and almost everyone has suboptimal levels. And that's a big problem because magnesium is involved in more than 600 biochemical reactions in your body. Now, here's what most people don't know. Taking just any magnesium supplement won't solve your problem because most supplements use the cheapest kinds that your body can't use or absorb. That's why I exclusively recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the it's the only full spectrum magnesium supplement with 7 unique forms of magnesium that your body can use and absorb. And I literally use this every night. Like I think I take 2 at night, and I also take more when I'm stressed as well because it's just so helpful in really calming me down, making my body feel better. Also really great for muscle tension, back pain, all of that. They have 7 different types in this. It's a very holistic supplement, which is why I love it. The makers of this magnesium supplement, Bioptimizers, are having an incredible Black Friday special offer from November 21st to 29th. So write that in your calendar right now. Jot that down. They are doing 25% off their entire store. So not just Magnesium Breakthrough. It's all of their digestive enzymes, their probiotics. They also have a parasite herbal cleanse that I've done. They have tons of products. So it's only during that 1 week, like Black Friday time, that you get 25% off. And this is the biggest sale that they do all year, which is wild. So I'm going to go take a look and see what I'm going to get. You can get this by going to www.bioptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany, and you can enter my discount code biohackingbrittany in all capitals to get 25% off. This is linked on my website. This is linked in the show notes. It's basically everywhere. But if you forget and November 21st comes, send me a message on Instagram and I can send you the link. I can send you the discount. No big deal at all. But I really suggest you write this down because I don't know, this might be while supplies last. I guess we're going to find out. So that's November 21st to 29th, Biohacking Brittany in all capitals for 25% off everything, including the best magnesium supplement that is out there. Yeah, I think that's like the narrative, like you said, basically for every microbiome. Like the skin microbiome, if you have a rash or something, it's like take this cream and kill any bacteria or fungus that might have caused it. And you get like prescribed a certain cream. Same with like the vaginal microbiome. If something's wrong there, you can take antibiotics to kill something off, like a UTI, whatever it is. And it's always this idea of there's bad bacteria and let's just wipe it out and then you'll be fine. But it causes so many issues long term when you do that, especially if you do it frequently. When I was a kid, I had a lot of sinus issues, and this is before I got into any of this. And I took antibiotics all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so then when I'm 16 and having gut health issues, but I've taken antibiotics like how many times in the last 16 years, it's not surprising that I'm having gut health issues because like what's going on with my dysbiosis at that point or my bacteria at that point. So I don't know. It's frustrating when I look back and realize that that contributed to that, but it's also empowering now knowing there's like companies like Viome that can help us avoid that for future generations.
Absolutely. And that story, your story, Brittany, it's way too common. You know, in your sinus issues, I don't know your personal history, but that could have been allergy, it could have been diet, it could have been environmental exposures, viral. Ear infections are another common example. I don't know, a lot of kids growing up, they have ear infections, but the most common ear infections are viral ear infections. But folks don't know, and they're just being given antibiotics, which from a provider standpoint, you know, I'm a physician. If a mom comes in with their child who's sick with a fever and pain, you know, they can't be consoled and they're making the time to come in my office and be seen, sit in the waiting room and, you know, do all the things. No one likes going to the doctor when they've got a sick child, right? The tendency for the physician is to give the mom something, give that parent something so they feel like they've been seen and now they're leaving the office with some, I guess, maybe hope or some treatment. And there's a time and place for antibiotics, and absolutely they've changed the world, right? In terms of infectious disease, they save lives. No, there's no doubt. Even with the oral microbiome, chlorhexidine and some of these antimicrobial approaches, they're absolutely necessary in certain conditions. All we're saying is for your day-to-day healthcare or oral care for your day-to-day gut health, you wouldn't want to bring in these high, powerful antimicrobials. Instead, you'd want to seek to restore balance with that microbiome. Yeah, we're one customer at a time, man.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's a lot, but at least we're at a point where, there's more information online, and holistic health in general is way more popular now. More people are open to it. So I think it's good, but I think there's still a long way to go for people. And I don't know, it might always be like that. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, the holistic health movement and biohacking in general and wellness has exploded in the last 10 years. So do either of you have, I guess, any predictions in general for where you think wellness and biohacking and even the microbiome trend is going in the next 5-10 years?
I think we're going to see a big focus on the oral microbiome, now that we're testing it and we know that it's so connected to other diseases. So definitely think oral microbiome is going to be big. I think there's a lot of things people are doing with their oral health that, like we talked about Listerine, that's counterproductive. So I think that's going to be gaining a lot of attention here in the coming years.
Yeah, I would add to that. We talk a lot about prebiotics and probiotics, but postbiotics, I think, also will be a up and coming a trend. But a lot of people aren't familiar with postbiotics. All that really means is, and you'll see a couple of different definitions, but kind of the definition that we stick to is basically think of a probiotic organism, a bacterium. If you were to heat kill that probiotic and then collect those cell parts and all its metabolites and now give that as a supplement, that's a postbiotic, right? So you get the benefit of the microbe itself and its metabolites. And it's really those metabolites that the bacterium produce that's where the magic happens. It's those bacterial metabolites that influence our cellular activity, our immune activity. And we've been really limited on what we could do with probiotics because they're living organisms, right? And they're sensitive to air and moisture and all these things. And it's really difficult to work with them and get them into supplements and various products, foods. But with postbiotics, you no longer have that problem because they've already been heat killed. So they're not alive, but you still get the benefit of their metabolites and you still get that signal. In fact, oftentimes the signal from the dead organism is even stronger and even more beneficial than the live microbe. Again, because we've collected these concentrated metabolites and now you're providing that along with the microbes. And so I think that's going to be really big in the next few years. Certainly we're bringing postbiotics into our product offerings as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's a lot of exciting stuff to come. It could be for any of the tests that you offer, but do you ever see any trends in terms of men's results versus women? Like, I'm just wondering if women maybe have, I don't know, more leaky gut than men, or maybe more oxalate issues, or even if there is a trend like that. I'm just curious.
I think we see higher biological ages. The dudes, we don't really take care of ourselves like your average Joe. Yeah, well, a health conscious guy will go out and they'll be fit, hit the gym and work out, but their diet might not necessarily be in check. And maybe they eat clean during the work week and then hit the weekend and do some bed shrinking and, get some football food, whatever. Outside of that, no, I would say it can be pretty individual.
We have noticed some trends in certain diet types. We did some studies, and depending on your diet type, keto, paleo, vegetarian, vegan, how does that influence your biological age? And one really surprising result from that study was keto diet. These people, they're taking out a certain macronutrient from their diet. It's restrictive. Turns out they're 5 years older than their chronological age on average.
Wow.
Yeah. So it may be helpful at first to help you lose some weight and get to a good fitness level, but long term, we're finding it's maybe not the best choice.
Right. And do you think that's because it's just too stressful on the body to be able to maintain low carb for that long?
Absolutely. Carbs are energy. It's a quick energy source and your brain needs it.
Yeah. And then, and there's a spectrum too, right? For keto, you've got your cheese and bacon and all things fat into the spectrum. And then you've got more your keto flex where, you're going to allow for vegetables, some fruits, and you're going to keep all your fats clean, omega-3s, your EVOs coming in, nuts and seeds. So there's a spectrum, but certainly with that other end, with the pork rinds and the cheddar cheese, you're bringing in all that sodium, all that salt stress, all that saturated fat, a lot of times, a lot of preservatives and processed meats and foods. So that as a whole, just not going to be conducive to a healthy lifestyle, especially in the long term.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I've done keto and I just found it too difficult. And also it did impact my stress. It impacted my mood, my energy levels, my hormones, and I just don't think it's great for women in general, to be honest, especially during your fertile years. But obviously, like you said, it does have its time and place and it can be useful for specific things. So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, okay, I want to get tested with Viome, which test do you recommend they start with if they've never been tested before?
If you've never been tested before, I would highly recommend the full body intelligence test. It's going to offer all of the 3 sample types that we offer. It includes blood, stool, and saliva. Really simple to do at home. It's just a little touch of your stool, a couple drops of blood, and you spit into a tube. Really easy. And you'll get a full picture of your health. We talked a lot about oral health. We talked a lot about gut health, but from the blood, you get a lot of insights about your host health. So how is your heart health? How is your neurotransmitter health? Things like that. So highly recommend the full body intelligence test. It really gives you a comprehensive view of your health and gives you solutions to improve those scores that need improving.
Yeah, that's the one that I did in the summer and I'm doing it again in a couple of weeks. And it's really comprehensive. Like you said, it gives you a lot of information. It's really helpful in terms of just kind of assessing if you have specific symptoms or something you're trying to figure out. For me, I definitely have cut out oxalates because of it. I'm also working on my cavity promoting microbes, which are obviously not good if I look at my results. And it's really hard because where else would you get this much data on yourself from an at-home test,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what the FBI is all about, is more data. The more inputs, the more data we can collect on you as an individual to give those recommendations, and just the more accurate, the more tailored those recommendations are going to be. Our other tests, the GI and the HI, they're great. They're good entry points, but the higher up the ladder you get, then the more data your results or your recommendations are going to be based on. So yeah, definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So if anyone's listening, I really suggest getting tested with Viome. I have a discount code. It's Biohacking Brittany in all capitals, and it's linked everywhere, my socials, website, everything like that. And Grant and Hillary, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. This was awesome. I learned a lot, and I think everybody else did too.
Absolutely, Brittany.
Thanks, Brittany. Real pleasure to be with you today. And also want to give a huge shout out to all of the Viome employees. We have amazing scientists, engineers, you name it. They're all really working hard to make this illness optional mission a reality. And so proud of what's going on. We have so much cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Thank you all for listening. And thank you, Brittany, for having us.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks for listening to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. If you're interested in finding the show notes or the sponsors for this episode, you can do so on my website, which is biohackingbrittany.com. Remember to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active. My handle is @biohackingbrittany. And if you're interested in working together and you want to email me directly, you can do that. My email is info@biohackingbrittany.com. And I look forward to hearing from you and having you tune in next week.